Hello, welcome to the Fantasy Fair. The what is it? Oh, that is right. The most magical podcast on earth. Joining me, I have Alexis Soto. How are you, Alexis?
I am a healthy 25-year-old and have no reason to complain. And I'm in a relatively pleasant mood. So, all things considered, I'm here. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, in 2020, I think that statement is kind of a luxury. You live in America.
It is a huge luxury, especially because like everything's falling apart. You know, people don't want to wear their masks. There's still that debate going on. Several months later, and then here we are. We're just here in the ether, just in the wind. Yeah. Just to let you know, this is a loosey-goosey episode that we're doing, because I just wanted to talk. And I was like, might as well record our thoughts on the Fantasy Fair. And because, as you know, I've been pretty busy for the last
off
air for the past several months, and you know, I seldom, unless it's the Fantasy Fair, I seldom go on and after work and record like this. I don't think I've done it in a while in this format, but here I am. I just I don't know. I felt the urge to do the Fantasy Fair, so here we are. And luckily I hit up my boy Alexis, and he was like, because what better is what's he got going on at night?
Yeah, I know, right? Absolutely nothing.
He's gonna stay up until dawn anyway, so
depends on your definition of dawn. I think, to me, I feel like most nights I'm in bed before the sun is up. So I think that's a marked improvement.
Before the sun is up, you see, going by technicalities, dirty fucking...
It was a bad summer.
Liberal.
For my sleep schedule, I'll just say that.
Yeah, but yeah. So we're just gonna keep it casual. I don't think we've done an episode like this in a while on the Fantasy Fair, so we're just
Have we ever done one like these on Fantasy Fair? We've done several of these on Red Spotlight, but those are very intentionally designed to be whatever we wanted to discuss.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I have to look. I mean, dude,
I know.
We've done so many fucking recordings.
I mean, here's the thing. I can't keep track of how many Fantasy Fair episodes there are, because there are at least 58 or 59 normal installments of the Fantasy Fair podcast. But then you have Once Upon a Retrospect, and then you also have to include Beyond the Ears. So when you add all those together, I'm not sure how many there are.
Maybe 118, 20, 120, somewhere around there. I don't know. I have to go to Castbox and just see how many recorded shows we've done in the past.
I can't be expected to do math. What do you think especially live on the air? No, that's not going to happen.
What? What's math?
Literally. Oh, God. Is that a Billy and Mandy reference? Or there was the one episode of Billy and Mandy where Billy tried to use Grimm to help him on a test. Is that the reference? Because I think Grimm was under the impression that it would be a history test, and then Grimm was like, "Billy, this is math," and then Billy's like, "What's math?" I don't know if that was what you were referencing, but I just remembered that out of the blue.
No, I'm just being like a stupid. Okay, this is where it came from subconsciously, right? So there was a 911 call from a little kid. Okay, hear me out. There's a little kid who called the frickin' emergency thing. I think it was the police department or something like that. No, it might have been like the caller on the opposite side. And there was a little kid, I think he was like 5 or 6, trying to get somebody like the police department, fire department, or anybody out there to help him with his math homework.
Oh my God.
And then it was recorded. Just go on YouTube and look it up, 911 math kid or something like that, and you'll find it. And like throughout the whole entire thing, he's like, what's 2 plus 2? Like just something like that, okay? And then the guy on the other side, he was just because he knew he was being for real. He was questioning what was going on. Is this a prank call or nothing? But no, it was just a genuine kid who wanted to know what the math problems were on his homework. And then the guy who was just playing around, he was just like, "Oh man, that's a tough one." Just playing along with the kid.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, like towards the end, you hear the mom come in, and then he's like, "Tommy, what's going on? I'm trying to get help from my math by calling the police department, but I needed help with my math. You said to call somebody."
Oh my god.
So it was like a genuine thing, and then the mom hung up, and then the guy on the opposite side was like, "I think the mom hung up."
Yeah. No, but I mean, I feel you about keeping track of how many like podcasts we've done. I mean, you and I have, for as long as we've been doing podcasts, you and I have been doing it from like, we were the only ones around today from the very beginning. And I don't even think if we were to like add up the official numbers, we would know how many there would be, because
actually, technically, you weren't there at the very beginning. You knew who was out there, here during the very beginning of the Fantasy Fair? One
right.
Mr. Peter Martinez.
No, Peter Martinez. No, I meant like in general, any show, any podcast that we've been doing, like from the very, very, like,
okay.
So this began with Red Spotlight like years and years and years ago. And even before then, it was barely News Crew. But when the podcast started, it was Red Spotlight. And then when you add in that show, and we're up to episode 269, that's dropping over the weekend. Holy shit. It's a lot of podcasts. And those are the finalized versions. If someone were to ask off the top of my mind, like, how many podcasts have you recorded where like you forgot to push the record button, or the audio corrupted, or the audio was destroyed somehow? Like, oh my God.
Or it was in a broken computer.
Oh, that happened too?
Yeah, because here's the thing. On my other computer, that's just blue screen of death, times 10. Yeah.
I lose track, dude, of how many computers you've had over the years, honestly.
I've had 3. I've had my Dell, I've had my HP, and now I have a Chromebook, which I'm talking to you over because it seems to work. Google seems to work better, and the Wi-Fi seems to be better on my Chromebook than my HP. So I'm just using my HP as a recording computer for right now. So yeah, but yeah, the thing is that when we do something like this, the computer, so like I remember we have the Captain America the Winter Soldier audio commentary, and Batman, the Batman.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, like of stuff that hasn't been released yet.
Oh. Okay, we're talking about like 2016, 2017-ish era?
Somewhere around there, yeah. We have Captain America the Winter Soldier, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. We have a whole entire audio commentary on there that will not see the light of day until I recover those files somehow. Also, we have the forbidden and should not be released Lion King audio commentary.
Right, but like just to be clear, like you don't have a choice in the matter. Like these files, you don't have access to them anymore, right? Like they're just yeah.
I mean, it's there. If somebody was like had half a brain, I'm pretty sure they could recover it. But I don't. have the knowledge of removing the blue screen of death, because my computer just doesn't want me to access anymore. It was just like, fuck you, go away. And it's been dormant ever since. So yeah, I mean, there's like different recordings that we've done over the years like that have been like corrupted, nobody's used anymore, and just like, or completely deleted or went off the ether.
Oh, there was actually that one time where our former podcasting home, for out of nowhere, deleted one of our episodes. We call it the lost episode. I think it was episode 118, 116. One of those was just permanently deleted.
Yeah, that's the reason why we left, primarily, because if that gets deleted and shit, what else gets deleted off there? So I didn't want that, and plus it's a shit ton of material, so I don't want that to go to waste and all that.
Yeah. You and I think, appreciate more than anybody else on this podcast, because I mean, you and I are the only ones that put in the actual like physical labor. I mean, we appreciate, Peter and Alexis and David, they're wonderful panelists, and they're part of why our podcasts, I feel, are just so exciting and fun and, chaotic at times. But like, you and I are the ones that are always doing the not so fun stuff of
we're editing, we're the ones who put in like the what's it called, like I do the more
rudimentary,
what's that word,
rudimentary,
not rudimentary, okay, I do the more administrative stuff, like
paperwork kind of crap.
Yeah, like making sure that we're still on whatever site we're hosting on.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that all the feeds are still up and running. You're
the reason why we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those other places.
Yeah, the reason why the podcast is accessible in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Which it takes a while because you have to input all the data, metadata, and all that stuff.
And we weren't even on those platforms up until maybe recently. Do you remember when we first debuted on Apple? We've been on iTunes though for the longest time, I believe.
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah,
I think we first were on Apple, on Apple Podcasts. We were on iTunes, but Apple iTunes, same thing.
Yeah.
But I think like 2015, like late 2015, I started like looking into it because I was just like, there's got to be a better way. Because we got sick and tired of like, the algorithm and YouTube and all that bullshit.
It's not.
And it was
YouTube. It's not. Yeah.
And plus, it took like 10 hours to like upload one podcast versus like on an actual feed, it'll take you like 5 minutes at most. But yeah, I mean, it's just night and day. So it's a lot. That's the inside. That's the inside baseball here at the Red Spotlight Network. Yeah, of what goes on here. It may sound stupid and all that stuff, but it is work. It is work, and we don't get paid for it, but we love talking about it.
It's a passion that you and I. Yeah. Look, it's a passion that you and I share. We don't do it for money. We'd love to at some point for sure, but I mean, we do this because we have to. We want to.
It kind of keeps our sanity alive because we have nobody who we could talk in depth about like these different like film to this degree, or like Disney and all that stuff to this degree. I mean, it was a godsend when in the 13th episode of Red Spotlight Entertainment, it was a godsend that we found Alexis Moreno, because shit, honestly, I was this close of ending it all the podcasts as we knew it until she came along. And then I was like, okay, there's a different energy, different vibe, and I think that it was something unique and different. I was like, maybe it is worth keeping, to this degree. And plus, we were talking about Disney and shit. God knows how much.
Yeah, it would not only was it. I think the it was a stay of execution for the Red Spotlight podcast, but it basically is the genesis of Fantasy Faire and what you guys do here, basically, which is so much fun. We should take this opportunity to tease the upcoming anniversary show.
Yeah, so what we're doing, we're throwing like a small little audio bash on on Red Spotlight Entertainment and throwing it back a little bit to 2013 and just talking about 2015, sorry, because I 13th episode I correlate with the year and all that stuff, but we're throwing it back a little bit, half a decade ago when we when we got started with we got started with just a little pod. That's Check Yes or No by George Strait.
Was that? I didn't catch that lyric, huh?
Yeah, it got started with just a little note. Do you love me?
Okay,
Do you want to be my friend? We got copyrighted. George Strait's lawyers are on the phone right now. But yeah, so we're going to be doing that on Red Spotlight Entertainment sometime soon. It'll be up fairly shortly after this podcast is up and running. But yeah. Now question for you, because Disney has been described as a cult.
I mean,
by some.
Yeah, it has.
How are you in your walk with Disney?
Wow. Wow. I don't. Am I on trial or something? It's like, is this one of those things like every 5 years, fucking religion is like, they want to test your faith again? Like, is it like a trick, like, question or what? Like, damn, I didn't know you guys took the cult thing that seriously on this podcast. Shit. I mean, what have I been missing out on?
Well, first of all, you missed out on initiation. We sacrificed a lamb and did all that stuff. Wore the black robes and everything like that. Did the candles and spilt the blood and all that stuff.
Wow.
fucking Satan shit over here. But seriously, how are you on your walk with Disney?
Okay. That's actually a really interesting question to ask, because it's kind of evolved throughout the years. To say the least, right? Look, it has been a very difficult, I guess, walk, if you want to put it in that way. Yeah.
Let me put it this way,
okay.
Everyone. This man that I'm talking to, Alexis J. Soto, he had a picture of Bob Iger on his wall.
Yeah, but I mean, was it really? Look, I have a picture right now of Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Guillermo del Toro, and Walt Disney on my wall. So I'm not sure how out of the ordinary that would be for me. And for full disclosure, I am one of these people that really both you and I decorate our rooms to a film theme. Yeah. So, you have a Walt Disney portrait on your wall as well. So, I mean,
a signed. It's quote signed.
Okay. Right, a signed Walt Disney portrait. But yeah.
It's just a lithograph. At one point
there was a
autograph.
Bob Iger photo on the wall. That's for sure.
Yeah, with all the legacy players that are on his like Captain America to represent, or something like that.
It was
to
Iron Man,
Marvel,
Iron Man, and Darth Vader.
Man, something to represent Star Wars and all that stuff. Just that
Woody
to represent all the acquisitions he's done over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, and since then, when you took it down, when I saw it down, I could just picture you like freaking Syndrome in Incredibles, just taking down the picture of Mr. Incredible.
If I recall correctly, so this answers kind of like two questions at the same time. The first question, I guess, is like, how has like the walk with Disney evolved? And then also like when that Bob Iger picture was taken down, the turning point was the wrongful firing of James Gunn. That I think was a real turning point in terms of like how I treated Disney. And if you saw the programming on Red Spotlight at that late summer, early fall, there was even an episode that was called The Unfantasy Fair, is how bad it went. It
was never ending. There was a reason why you weren't there that whole entire
the Fantasy Fair.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, with all due respect, I don't. It probably wasn't appropriate for me to be on because they would think it would derail the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It really would. Yeah.
Because by and large, I mean, I'm not a fucking journalist, you know. Alexis Moreno, she's not a fucking journalist.
Mm-hmm.
We just like the reason why the Fantasy Fair exists is so it could indulge me in geeking out.
First and foremost, to indulge yourself. First and foremost,
to indulge myself in some Disney magic from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the primary reason why the Fantasy Fair exists. And to constantly like, I'll be like, oh my God, like Sleeping Beauty's castle or something like that. And he's like, yes, but you know what also would be good? If they rehired James Gunn, you know, and just like having that be interjected every like 3 minutes, I think that would have completely like thrown everything under the, what's it called? Under the monorail. Instead of the bus, just the monorail.
Yeah. Look, there's actually, all of this kind of intersects at a couple of different interesting questions. And then you should get into this maybe after I answer your question about like my walk with Disney. Because there was a point. So you created the Fantasy Fair podcast, I want to say 2016 or 2017, one of those two.
16,
okay. But it wasn't until later where it was becoming more and more frequent. And there was a point where you were juggling both podcasts.
Yeah.
You were basically running the show for every single show that we were producing, which also meant hosting, which is, it does not sound, it's not as easy as it sounds, nor is it easy as it looks, I think, for some people.
Because I used to host Red Spotlight Entertainment, the Fantasy Fair, To the Table.
That was God. That's true. There was a point where you were hosting 3 different shows.
I was hosting 3, and I was editing all 3 shows. Plus uploading and doing all that shit.
Well, you left out a big part. Planning and scheduling. Because that's a hassle.
So, yeah. I remember just like, like it wasn't even recording anymore. It was just more a chore more than anything.
Job. It was a job.
Yeah. It was a job and I wasn't even getting paid for it. So I remember I was doing all that shit. And plus like I would like try to like make it more upbeat and, you know, like, hey, you know, let's just talk about, you know, let's just, you know, I mean, it's a chore enough as it is. Let's just be happy and like, you know, talk, you know, just geek out and all that stuff.
But
and then
oftentimes the news isn't happy. Oftentimes it's very unhappy.
Yeah. So since I started working more frequently, I gave the metaphorical keys to you. In terms of Red Spotlight Entertainment. Right. Here and there you would do something here on the Fantasy Fair, but mostly it's been me, but you took on editing as well for the shows. And I'm like, well, again, much like at the beginning of the show, you stay up until dawn anyway.
And of course, like it's interesting because you and I would very much, you know, split the workload in terms of editing these shows. But since the pandemic, I mean, your time has been so precious because of work. The fact that you're able to do any podcasts at all is, I think, it is such a miracle in and of itself. But you you don't have the time or the mental time really because of all the stuff going on, but to do the editing. So I don't know. If you'd asked me a year ago that I would be doing all of the podcasts, the editing like full time, I'd be like, what the fuck? That sounds a lot. But the more years you put into it, the easier I think it becomes. And so far this year has been really, really good in terms of getting those podcasts out there. I edited a podcast today. In fact, it took like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And it used to take a lot longer sometimes. But let's backtrack here. God, I really forget that you had that much responsibility on this. Like, no wonder you asked me. There was a point, I think, because longtime listeners know that at some point, Kyle wanted me to host full-time Red Spotlight, and I've been doing it from that point on. And one of the reasons he said when he approached me was, dude, I'm tired. I need help. Also, the podcast as it is right now, I appreciate what you and Peter have done, but like, it's just not as fun for me anymore because it's just so negative, and you two just pile everything on, and I can't take it. And you know what?
I would try to say something nice, and you'd be like, "Fuck you, doom and gloom." You know that.
Oh my god, that's so yeah. So like it was understandable about what happened, but like
even to where I would be like, I like it. I'm like, fuck you, you're wrong. Let me tell you why. 10 hours later, and that is why you're wrong. Yeah, but I liked this scene because of this. Oh, it's so pandering because let me tell you why. 10 hours later, and that is why it was pandering. I mean, it's just like that would be the discussion going in. I was just like, fuck it. I'm just bye. See you later. And I spent more time working on the Fantasy Fair. That was really reinvigorating, to be honest, spending on time because like I became more acquainted with Disney than I ever did before, and it made me feel a lot, I don't know, mentally better because honestly, like Moreno, her and I like the same, her and I, when it comes to Disney, sorry, Alexis, but her and I see more eye to eye in terms of like Disney, seeing it eye to eye. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I felt like really shifted the tide in terms of like me being creative and all that stuff here on the Fantasy Fair.
Yeah.
And I let you talk about whatever the fuck you wanted on Red Spotlight Entertainment.
Yeah. And look, it's like similarly to how you and Moreno see eye to eye on a lot of what Disney is doing, the same can be said about me and Peter, but for the completely opposite reasons. I think that you and Alexis do. Like we take the more pessimistic and very critical point of view when it comes to Disney.
You're like Stettler and Waldorf, basically.
But I mean, I guess like to answer your overall question, it has been, I think perhaps maybe my relationship with Disney has been the most sour that has changed since like when we first started. Because I think if you even remember so the podcast that we always point back to as the one that was, all defining was Diamonds Are Forever, which will be celebrating our 5th anniversary pretty soon. And even if you go back, and they're still online, if you go back and look at those Barely News Crew videos, I was a Disney propagandist. Really, I was all in on the company, on the individuals in terms of like the executives. I mean, I was just operating under the mentality that like Disney was supreme. There was nothing better, at least for me. I mean, I was basically sucking their dick, is how like, far up Disney's ass I was. And I would constantly make apologies for them. I would constantly try and like defend them. One of the infamous ones that I always bring up on Red Spotlight, and this is not a conversation that was on the show, but it was on a Barely News Crew thing, was when Peter and I were discussing the reshoots for Rogue One. And Peter was going all into it, saying like, this is what this means, and it's bad, and I'm getting worried. And I would say, you're full of shit. They got everything covered. And you know what? Like, I was so on Disney's side that I made some statement that was to the effect of, I don't give a fuck about filmmaker Gareth Edwards' vision. I trust Kathleen Kennedy. Boy, has that opinion aged well.
Yeah, I would rather trust Gareth Edwards' opinion more than Kathleen Kennedy.
Right. And that's how I feel now.
Well, I mean, a lot of opinions have changed. I mean, back then, okay, let's wind the clocks back to 2015 again. There was a little movie, I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I'm familiar.
When we watched that movie, we were at a completely different mentality, mental state when it came to Star Wars, because we were like, ooh, who, we were pretty much on the bandwagon that everybody was. I mean, who's Rey? Who's Rey? Who is Rey? And everything like that. And we were like, oh my God, what if she is, Luke Skywalker's child, and he left her out in the middle of nowhere, so maybe Snoke couldn't find her or anything like that. Like, we were speculating all of those things. We were doing just speculation after speculation, and we pretty much sounded like those who were questioning Star Wars after The Last Jedi. We're like, wait a minute, Rey can't be a nobody, because she has all this power and shit like that. We pretty much sounded like that before we saw episode 8. And even then we were just like, Han Solo, because they built her up so much in The Force Awakens too, where it was just like, who's the girl kind of thing, what girl, there was like these different conversation pieces that would be part of the conversation of Star Wars, the Force Awakens, and we bought it hook, line, and sinker. Well, the conversations that were, the questions that were brought up in JJ's mystery box. But since then, we universally, I want to put it on the table. We did universally love The Last Jedi here on the podcast and the panelists among it. But the thing is that we become so jaded with the way that it was treated post Last Jedi, and the response to The Last Jedi, to the haters.
Beyond the movie itself, the fandom has just become so corrosive and toxic and unpleasant to be around. It's put a dark cloud over the whole fandom.
I think this is where it stems from. I think that they released Star Wars so close together that that it grew bigger in the pop culture zeitgeist than it ever did before. And I think that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't make your story bigger than what it's supposed to be. And I think that that's what happened to Star Wars, So, I mean, but yeah, I think Kathleen Kennedy should go, to be honest. Kathleen Kennedy, because she keeps on. Okay, here's the thing, because she keeps on straddling her apprentice, one Mr. J.J. Abrams, and I think that that's what's corrupting a lot of things in Star Wars, and how it's treated and everything like that. The mentality of Star Wars too, of everything has to be connected and everything like that, because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be all connected. That makes your world a lot smaller. You want your world to be, massive and everything like that. Oh, by the way, speaking of Star Wars, congratulations, Mandalorian, on your 7 Emmys. Yeah, I love the show until the very end. Until the very end, when I saw the Darksaber. And I was like, all right, here we go. All right. And everything like that. But that's just a small fraction of problems and everything like that we've had with Disney over the years.
I want to say though, because we're gonna be getting into like the very like individuals, like the whole discussion of Kathleen Kennedy and what's going on with Star Wars could literally fill up 5 podcasts. But let me just finish answering your first question about like my walk with Disney, right? So over the years, not only has like all of ours, I think, opinions on certain films has, evolved, but we take on different points of view. Our own taste in film, continues to grow and change over the years. And the thing about, where we were in 2015, I was just excited for everything Disney. I was excited about the Star Wars movies, all of the Marvel films, the Pixar films, the Disney animated movies. Even at that point, believe it or not, that was a time where we were really looking forward to those live action Disney remakes. All of us were just on the train. We were on board for all of it. And then if you fast forward to where we are 5 years later, I think to me, as far as like what began to taint my view of Disney as a company and as an institution is that I myself personally, in my politics, have become increasingly anti-corporate, anti-capitalist, first and foremost. But then you also have like damaging stories out there that are exposed. I mean, I'm not gonna dwell on them, but like the moments that really like shook me was the firing of James Gunn, because of the fact that he was just slimed and set up by this fucking alt-right rapist. And that was horrible. Of course, I applaud them for rehiring him, but that was a debacle that shouldn't have happened in the first place, really. It was wrongful, and it was shameful, and it was disgusting. And then there was the buyout of 20th Century Fox, which had and continues to have massive ramifications for the film industry, and then resulted in thousands and thousands of layoffs. And then you get to a couple of weeks ago, there was a story where it was bad enough that they reopened under the circumstances of a pandemic, their theme parks. But even in places like downtown Disney in California, where there was literally an expose of several of their employees that were tested positive for COVID, but they weren't heard from, and they were keeping that under wraps. Needless to say, those stories, I think, just what they did for Disney for me was it was just another company. I mean, the cherished brand that Walt Disney created is still there, but that in and of itself has become far too coddled. And from a creative standpoint, when it comes to all these properties, and I think you and I have kind of arrived at mostly the same point, although we took two different roads to get there, is that the protection or the overprotection of this brand has repeatedly led to creatively bankrupt results.
Yeah.
They have so many names. They have so many intellectual properties, so many franchises, more than anybody else. But rarely do they have any idea what to do with it. I think far beyond Kathleen Kennedy, Alan Horn has been a disaster from a creative standpoint for the Walt Disney Studio. He has been probably the best, considering like all he had to do was just greenlit live action remakes and they all make $1 billion each. How much easy money is that? But if you look at the last decade of Disney live action movies, I think 99% of them I didn't like or were bad just on the face of it, Star Wars
gems that were actually good weren't marketed at all and forgotten under the ether. Okay, for example, I saw it. Queen of Katwe. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Movie. But because it wasn't marketed, because it isn't under the zeitgeist of the big old Disney brand,
it's not a blockbuster. Therefore, it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. And like more movies like that should be made. Like I remember Disney made a ballsy movie called Remember the Titans. I remember that when Disney made.
You see, remember there was a time where Disney made good live action movies.
Yeah, Mighty Joe Young. I still remember that movie fondly. There's like different movies that I think were made. Oh, by the way, I would argue the first live action Disney remake was Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book with Jason Scott Lee as Mowgli. That was good. That was a good movie. Yeah, it had its cliches in there, but overall, like, aesthetically pleasing. George of the Jungle, remember George of the Jungle? Inspector Gadget, like, these different movies lend itself to, like, good creative, outlets and outcomes and everything like that. Then now it's just been a place of checks and balances, just like, oh, okay. Does it have the nostalgia factor? No? Okay. We're not going to market it.
Well, that's another thing. Everything has just become nostalgia to the 10th degree.
Yeah. And like that's the thing that Walt didn't want. He didn't want us to be looking into the past. He wanted us to look into the future, looking forward to new ideas and everything like that. And honestly, I think it's sad to say they like Bob Iger and everybody has been trying to complete the Disney legacy instead of adding on to it. And that's the thing. That's the number one thing that I don't think should be forthright in what they're trying to accomplish. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. If I may, I have here currently in front of me a list of the major live action films the Walt Disney Studio has released in the 2010s, if I may, just to give you an example, and to give us a good sense of how many of these we like and how many of these we actively dislike. So we go back to 2010. I have a list of films here. Alice in Wonderland. This is the Tim Burton version, obviously. Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Secretariat. Tron Legacy. Some of these are international releases, so give me one sec. Prom. Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
Like that.
The Muppets. John Carter. Well, we'll get to overall. John Carter. The Odd Life of Timothy Green. Oz the Great and Powerful. The Lone Ranger.
Soured over time.
Yeah. Saving Mr. Banks, which we both have said that we love. Muppets Most Wanted. $1 Million Arm. Maleficent, which has been much talked about on this podcast.
Hi, Moreno.
Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Cliched movie as hell.
Into the Woods. Trash. Into the Trash is what it should have been named.
Into the Woods. More like Into the Trash.
McFarland, USA.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Cinderella.
I actually like that one.
Tomorrowland.
Good idea. Bad execution.
The Finest Hours with Chris Pine.
Crickets.
The Jungle Book.
I like that one.
Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Hated.
The BFG.
I liked it.
Pete's Dragon.
It was okay.
You mentioned this one, Queen of Katwe.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast.
Fuck that movie.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tale.
Double fuck that movie.
A Wrinkle in Time.
More like A Wrinkle in... I can't. You see, I got so bored thinking about Wrinkle in Time that I couldn't even come up with a joke.
Christopher Robin.
I was actually entertained with that one.
The Nutcracker and the Four Realms.
I hear it's bad. It looks bad.
Mary Poppins Returns.
I like that one.
See, we'll get back to around. There are some of these that I actually enjoy to like. But there are some of these that are just completely non-starters. Tim Burton's Dumbo.
No.
Just no.
No.
Did you see that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll just leave it at no. Aladdin. You liked this movie? I fell asleep. We'll leave it at that.
I wouldn't go as far as saying like. I was entertained.
You were entertained. Okay. The Lion King, which is
no.
Maleficent Mistress of Eve.
Quadruple no on The Lion King. God, Maleficent Mistress of Evil was so freaking boring.
Oh my god.
So freaking boring. Like, I watched it.
Uh-huh.
Because, like, I had nothing better to do, and I heard David liked it. And David, you let me down, man.
No, David has a lot of stuff that he likes that he admits only he likes. And that would be in the same group of that. Lady and the Tramp, which was Disney Plus. You saw that.
It was okay.
That was it for that decade. But the most recent one, which should tell you how far they've plummeted. Well, there are two more recent ones. There's Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus, originally made for a theatrical release, which
I heard was foul.
Yeah. And Mulan, which that was also made with the help of the Chinese government in areas that feature concentration camps for Muslims. So that's another one of the stories that's very upsetting about Disney. But yeah.
Yeah.
I liked yeah, in that list I liked Saving Mr. Banks, I liked Christopher Robin, I liked Mary Poppins Returns. I enjoy Pirates 4, although sometimes it can be boring depending on the time that I view it. But I love The Muppets and Muppets Most Wanted. Those films are fantastic. I love them. I enjoyed Cinderella. I enjoyed The Jungle Book. When it comes to live action remakes, that's the rest of them I fucking hated. So that's where I am at with them.
Like Beauty and the Beast. Hey, I have a question for you. How does a moment last forever?
It doesn't.
Lion King, there's multiple times where I wanted to barf. Wow. And like, I know, like it's such a horrible.
Oh, sorry. Tron Legacy. I enjoyed Tron Legacy.
Tron Legacy is a good movie.
Yeah.
The effects might be a little bit dated.
Well, 2010. It was the first of its kind with some of that technology.
Yeah. Especially with the de-aging shit. I mean, we're no better off.
Yeah.
Unless you're Marvel. Then in that case, you're working at it. But like the de-aging effects on Jeff Bridges, I don't think was good, to be honest. Even back then. So I was just like, why am I watching the Polar Express?
Distracting. It's definitely distracting. I didn't hate The Lone Ranger. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I didn't expect anything great, but it was fun. It was, the kind of, looking back on it, this movie wouldn't have been made with Johnny Depp today. Because of Johnny Depp, but just because the Native American.
Depp?
The what?
You said Donnie Depp.
I said Donnie? I thought I said Johnny. Well, not because of Johnny Depp's like personal issues with Amber Heard or whatever, or his image, but I think it was very offensive to the Native American community that he was portraying that whole situation. Uh-huh. Different time, obviously, right? And this was only 2013 that it was released. I never watched John Carter, but I hear people really liked that movie, but nobody watched it. Yeah. But
yeah.
Yeah, the ones that I think were the worst for me, Into the Woods was awful. It was fucking awful. I think to me the movie that I hated the most, of that entire slate, but perhaps one of the more hated movies of the whole decade in anything film, was The Lion King. Like, to me, when you talk about the theatrical experience, I felt like I was a caged animal in that theater. I literally was looking off to my side, like eyeing my exits and wanting to get away because I was in pain. This was causing me pain.
It was tarnishing everything that was good about The Lion King. Like, I was having secondhand embarrassment.
For having walked in there?
Yeah. It was bad. Yeah. No, like, there are movies that you shouldn't touch, like The Godfather, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, was the original Wizard of Oz, The Lion
Charlie
King.
and the Chocolate Factory. I'm sorry, the Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka
and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, the Tim Burton movie should not be touched in any way. It's just perfect, flawless.
How many remakes has Tim Burton made now in his filmography?
Fuck me, I don't know. You know what would have been amazing though? He had the project before. I think Paramount picked it up, or MGM. I'm not sure, but the Addams Family movie that came out last year, that was supposed to be a Tim Burton stop motion affair. And I think that would have been a good return to form for Tim Burton.
Yeah, when that movie came out, no one's talking about it now. So,
however, despite all the with the live action, I mean, there's a good ratio. But honestly, I think the most thing that's been thriving and should be thriving is the animation department.
I couldn't agree more. The animation department has, there are, I think, some legitimate criticisms about the latter half of the 2010s, especially. But overall, the films themselves have been terrific. I think I do feel that one of Peter's critiques, and there is a legitimate one, was where toward the latter half, at that time, Lasseter was still there greenlighting these projects at the head of the animation studio, that they were getting maybe a little too much in the sequel vein, because for the first time we had direct theatrical sequels to these films. So we had Frozen 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, right? And I believe there was those were basically it. But I think Peter's concern of that was, they're gonna go the Pixar route where we're gonna have a couple of years of just sequels to the great original films. That being said, while I feel like that was largely a byproduct of Lasseter, because that's what happened with Pixar once Disney bought them in that decade.
Yeah.
But Ralph Breaks the Internet and Frozen 2, from a quality standpoint, maybe Ralph wasn't as necessary, perhaps, but it still was a good movie. Whereas Frozen 2 did the unthinkable in my eyes, and I think in your eyes as well, and exceeded the original film. So
yeah, I freaking love Frozen 2. I like Frozen 1. Made the music great, are still bops and all that stuff. But honestly, I think the second one took it to a whole new level. As a good sequel should, I think. Much to Peter's, discretion. But the thing, God, let's just name off some that have, come out this decade. The start of 2010, Toy Story 3, automatically you're hitting all, firing at all cylinders. You have, what's it called? You have Coco come out. You have, what's it called? Moana. You have, what else?
Zootopia.
What else? Zootopia.
Wreck-It Ralph. Big Hero 6.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Tangled.
Tangled. That was 2009. though, right? No, 2010.
10.
Okay. What else? Fucking Frozen. The first Frozen came out this decade. In the past decade. So, like, there are some heavy hitters, big, huge bangers. Did you say Inside Out?
We haven't seen, no, but you're right. Inside Out was one of those, yeah.
Inside Out, like, there's like so many different things that are that automatically became classics this year. The last decade, and I think that is impressive, to be honest. To like be like boom, 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 hit, both critically and and financially and everything like that. And I don't think that it's been that way since the early years of the 90s, when the Renaissance was kicking up in the Disney company. I mean, I think that's where it really hits it large. And
you talk about from a financial standpoint, just purely, even to the films that weren't as creatively well received, like Cars. Well, I shouldn't say that one. That doesn't make any money. I should say Incredibles or Finding Dory or Monsters University. That kind of stuff made so much money for them. So like, we're at a point now where we've exceeded the Renaissance, where literally any Disney animated movie, whether it be from Pixar animation, for the most part, there are some unfortunate,
gonna make bank.
Yeah. There are some movies that either through timing or through a lack of marketing fall through the cracks and don't end up being successful, like The Good Dinosaur and unfortunately Onward. Although in Onward's case, it really wasn't its fault.
Or the marketing's fault, because the marketing was all there and everything like that. It was just due to the fact that a little thing called COVID came around.
Yeah.
And kind of stole its thunder. So I think no fault of its own, even this year, Onward and all that stuff, I think was just like a phenomenal film, to be honest. But the thing...
But real quick, though,
I don't know.
a lot of these movies, a lot of these bad movies, the ones that we don't like, were also big box office bombs. That so one of the ones that didn't even go to the box office, what's Artemis Fowl, was so expensive, and they just dumped it on Disney Plus. So that was just, these are movies where they just completely lose money on. The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. I don't know who that movie was made for. No one liked it. Next to no one liked it, and it lost them so much money. Wrinkle in Time, which had Ava DuVernay, it was poorly received. No one was interested. Also, Alice Through the Looking Glass, which was a sequel that came out 6 years after the original came out. That's just another problem, is that I don't understand why it is that Disney feels like their properties are just evergreen. Like, they release it 5-6 years later, and then when the sequel, like the same thing with Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, the sequel comes out, half of the people that saw the first one are interested, and maybe a fraction of them show up. So there's just so much wasted money that they put into these big movies, and they're not good, first and foremost, and then when they're released, no one's interested, and then next to no one likes them.
And that's the thing, though, that, they wait too long, and they're just like, the timing is just horrible that they have.
And the only movies that make money for the live action department, guess what, are the ripoffs, as I want to call them now. The remakes.
But that's just due solely on nostalgia factor alone, which is a hell of a drug.
Aladdin, Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast made $1 billion.
Okay, question for you, because you're the box office projectionist here on Red Spot Entertainment. When The Little Mermaid comes out, the remake, where do you think it's going to be?
pre-COVID, $1 billion guaranteed. After COVID, if we're the closest to any kind of normalcy as there was, and we should acknowledge there's no going back to the normal world. It's only here on out how it is that we can restore some things, but continue to move on and to move forward. The potential definitely is there. In a normal time, that movie is going to be a behemoth. And it will, I think, be as successful as Aladdin, Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast. But when you factor in with the world after COVID,
and how safe some people feel and all that stuff.
Let's say it's 2022, which I think it is going to come out 2022, right? That's when we're looking at it. I think enough. It could, and it should, but it depends on the circumstances here and there. But if we're ideally though, if we're not talking about a pandemic, it would be no question. And I felt the same way about Mulan, but the weird thing is, it's not open in theaters where Disney Plus is available, but in the markets that it has performed in, especially a lot of those Asian international markets, they've tossed the movie aside. China did not give a fuck about Mulan. Really. No one's watching Mulan. It's going to make less than $40 million. The lifetime gross for Mulan in China. That's a disaster. And so maybe and I can't help but wonder if it's a combination of all the bad media, but I just think from what I've been reading, the Chinese did not care for this movie. And on top of that, the Chinese government, because of the controversy, has forbidden their media from covering the movie in the trades. So if this was a normal time and there was no pandemic and all that bad stuff came out, Mulan might be considered, and honestly, by some standards, is already considered to be one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. But that being said, though, it still would have had an audience in America and all the other international markets. So live action remakes are still as bankable as ever. And I guess my biggest fear out of this is that Disney's going to look at that and say, well, you know what? We tried doing something different, but don't worry, guys. Next movie, we got the songs, we got the cartoon characters. We're going to give you everything you want.
And more Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah. Remind me, what is he doing with that movie?
I think he's writing. I think he's working on some new material with Alan Menken for the movie.
So music. He's not working on a script, or is he?
I don't think he's working on the script. I think he's just collaborating with Alan Menken on working new music.
So you're telling me that Lin-Manuel Miranda is not involved in the creative direction of this movie from a producing standpoint or a writing standpoint?
I don't think so. No.
Then putting the music to the side, what hope is there that this is going to be anything different than what happened with Mulan, Lion King, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast?
Hold on, I'm Googling to make sure.
Right. I'm just asking the audience here. And look, if you like these live action remakes, as I always say, and as we always say, look, you do you like what you like, you have a voice in Alexis Moreno. To my endless confusion, she, on record, I believe, has come on this podcast and said, I liked it, to just about every single one of those. Except I think Lion King was the one that she didn't like, which that should tell you shit. Don't watch that one. But look, she liked what she liked. I'm not criticizing her. I'm not throwing her under the bus. I'm just saying, whoa, I'm on the opposite end of that train. But look, they worked obviously for a lot of people, and I think we have to acknowledge at some point, although it doesn't diminish our points of view, But we largely seem to be in a minority because these films are so outrageously, ridiculously successful. So,
okay, so I'm seeing here that the producers is going to be Mark Platt and Lin-Manuel Miranda.
okay.
Songs are going to be by Alan Menken, obviously Howard Ashman from his original material, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Ooh, holy shit. Hold on a second. I did not know that. Daveed Diggs is going to be Sebastian.
It wasn't that announced? I'm sure that was announced. All right, wait. Remind me. Is it official or was it a rumor?
Hold on. I'm checking the sources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another thing about
according to the Hollywood Reporter,
it's official then. He's gonna that's great casting. That'll be, at least that in and of itself will be fun. He's great, and that's perfect casting as perfect casting gets. Also, and I feel like in general my walk with Disney has been tainted by, the behavior that I've noticed with Disney fans in particular. I just because I bring up a lot of the negative stories that have happened with Disney in the last few years does not mean that I have completely fallen out of favor with Disney or that I myself am an anti-Disney person. I love Disney. I love the theme parks still, maybe more than I ever did. And many of the movies that they make, I think I still largely love. But it's like, all right, well, many of you loved Beauty and the Beast, and it made $1.5 billion in the international box office, right? Why was there no outrage when it came to light recently that the original directors and creators of the beloved 1991 classic were not paid any royalties at all?
Or the original animators,
right,
from The Lion King.
They literally used all their material in their live action movie and they were given nothing. The only thing that they were given was a last minute phone call to invite them to the premiere. Oh, and their names were given a credit in the end credits.
But that was it. And that was just to cover the basis of Union. But that was it.
Yeah. Why has Disney gotten off the hook by a lot of... and there are some people who have been critical, but why have they cut their Imagineers? Why has the funding gone down for that? Why? Well, you ask why. Bob Chapek. And who happens to be running the company now? Mr. Bob Chapek. That's wonderful.
Which that's a damning of all people. Like, I would expected to see like Alan Horn or something like that to like take over as CEO or something like that.
But Bob Chapek? God, no one likes Bob Chapek, or Bob number 2 as he is known in the company. I guess the good thing is that he's not really CEO. I mean, if we're being honest, Bob
Iger still
No, Bob Iger is the real CEO. Like, there was this big story that he left. He doesn't have the job formally, but he's the chairman of the company, which means
he's CEO.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's so funny, like, when I'm listening to the quarterly earnings call, it's so funny hearing, like, Bob Iger, like, say, and here is the Disney CEO, Bob Chapek, with everything like that. And then Bob Chapek comes in, like, okay, so the earnings are...
I love how you do that, but, like, I think there was a time where that's literally how your voice sounded like on a microphone years and years ago.
Yeah. And then I realized God fucking damn it. I sounded like that.
Yeah, that was a growing process too.
A really huge growing process. I'm still in the different channels of trying to figure out how to speak gooder.
Yeah. Gooder, yeah. We're all trying to be gooder in our lives. And, and to also like be in that vein.
But being more eloquent in terms of everything like that. But yeah, Bob Chapek, fuck that guy. He's just like, okay, so Disney orders on Disney Plus. Then let's go into Disney Plus for a second. Disney Plus, we got a grand total of 60 million subscribers worldwide. And we're expected to reach another quota of 2.7 by the end of the quarter, and so.
Well, the next quarterly meeting should be interesting, and I expect that there would be a recording of an episode that would cover what happened in the next one. I think it's in October here on Fantasy Fair, but what people are most interested in hearing is how Mulan did on Disney Plus. Like officially, what are the numbers they're going to report? We already know from a third party that the numbers were not great. $90 million, a little bit more than maybe $100 million to date overall over a 3 to 4 week period is terrible. And I think the company themselves...
To a $200 million budget film.
Right. And you also couple the fact that it's bombing anywhere it's open in theaters is terrible for the movie. But I think maybe the most telling sign, we were hearing rumors all summer long that... not only was Mulan, but also Black Widow and Soul were considered to be put on Disney Plus as a premiere access. That label was. It was pretty telling to me last week when it was announced that Black Widow would not go on Disney Plus. And in fact, it moved from November all the way to May 2021. That is a stunning admission of failure, I would say, because if Mulan was so successful, I don't think it would be a question that Black Widow would go on Disney Plus as well as Soul.
Yeah, it was all a matter of what would make bank or not. And honestly, like, I don't want any movie to be VOD'd.
Me neither.
Shit.
Yeah, me neither.
Because, honestly, despite, whatever the outcome of Soul or
Black Widow,
or
even Mulan, I would have preferred just to see the vistas that they had, even though they were like the circumstances of capturing those vistas aside, they were beautiful. They were,
Yeah, like take a shot and it looks like you're, looking at a photo still that belongs in a Chinese library. I mean, just like stuff like that is an exceptional all in itself. But the thing that sucks is that there are artists who did put time and effort into these movies, and it should be seen and and given its dues on the big screen. And honestly, we owe it to the creators who do that, who do spend their time and efforts to make this movie happen. And I think that that's where the conversation is being lost. Like, oh, just put it on VOD and put it on VOD. Let it be a rental or put it on a streaming service. I don't think that should happen because that's paying a disservice to those who put time and effort into this movie. They spent like anywhere from 2 to 4 years. Some have been in development for 10 years. I mean, it's just like, it's just one of those things where you need to give it its time in the movie theater circuit, and I think that we owe it to them. And I mean, like No Time to Die, Jesus fuck, I would pay $100 right on the spot to watch No Time to Die right now on VOD. But is that my preferred method of watching No Time to Die? No, because I would like to see it on the big screen, like I did when I saw Casino Royale back in 2006. And I think that is where I think that we draw the line when it comes to like artistry and everything like that, and where the movie things, and a lot of people are asking, like, why the the movie theaters, why this and why that, and it's because of that, and it is honestly solely because of that.
Don't you find that troubling though? Don't you find that troubling that not many people care enough to be aware about the people behind the movies they love? Like, that's kind of why, like, it's not just like, Disney. It wasn't as if Disney was motivated by any kind of like goodwill here, but to their credit, they are big proponents of the theatrical experience surviving, because that's where they make their money off any movies. All they make for the most part are blockbusters. And in order to keep that, to sustain that, they need to have movie theaters be the way that they kind of were, how Endgame was so big and everything. And this whole PVOD thing wasn't like, they could have handled it better with some exhibitors, but for the most part, they did it because they are in need of money. They're struggling right now, as it were. And it wasn't successful enough that was worth the trouble. So they're going to, I think them and Warner Brothers are the studios that are the biggest supporters of theaters right now. Universal seemingly is trying to push them over the cliff with their like VOD deal with AMC, and them saying, I don't know, maybe I'll release my movie with you. That being said, in general, when we talk about fandom, it's great that they love, whatever fandom it is, and we have our fandoms too. But I often feel disappointed that it is not more of a discussion when it comes to the real human costs.
Element.
Right, yeah. The human element.
Like, okay, like watching, I don't know if it's just me, because I've actually been involved in like theater productions and everything like that, but like I know what it takes to put on a full-fledged musical or a stage production of a show and everything like that. I know what's the in and outs of that. I know how much of a time crunch a lot of people are on. I know how much you have to be on the dot and precise in order for the show to for that, number one, for the perceived magic of your expectation, and all that stuff. But the thing is that there are so many people behind the scenes that that make the magic happen. I hate to sound like a sentimental like bullshitter, but it is true. Like just the stuff that you see on screen has happened because somebody didn't get, I mean, we had such a small thing with ROP back in high school, and I would go and help out at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would not get home until like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. and all that stuff. And that was just for a small production. And for big productions like that to be put on, I think I think it's a tremendous disservice to do that to a lot of people that spent, all their time and effort into making that magic happen, so to speak. And honestly, like that's how art works. You spend your time with something and you put a little bit of effort into it, I don't know. I might be sentimental over the good old days.
Well, I mean, I think we all are to an extent, but I feel like, I think there's this impression that I like to castigate people, but it's like it's my anger and it's kind of my disgust. Like, for example, a lot of the conversation in the fandom circles that was in relation to the 20th Century Fox buyout was solely obsessed with X-Men and Deadpool now coming into the MCU.
Or more important, right? The Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, ooh, now that 20th Century Fox is, under the Disney umbrella, they have to release the theatrical versions of Star Wars, right? like that conversation was like the first thing that was brought up. There'd be endless think pieces, you name it, Collider, and so on, comicbook.com, like constantly egging on the notion that that was the possibility without even at all thinking of like
there was this perception the media was cheering on the buyout.
Yeah, without giving the layoffs a second thought.
Over 10,000 people lost their jobs when the Fox division was acquired by Disney and ultimately phased out. And then that's the real human cost first and foremost. And then, of course, the years to come, a lot of those lots were demolished, were just a lot of these divisions were erased. And then when you talk about Fox as a studio, we got the word months and months ago that Disney's plan going forward are to only do 5 Fox films a year. And we don't know if that includes the Searchlight unit, which, if you know your film, that studio is responsible for many a great piece of film, some of which have won Best Picture in the past. That would include The Shape of Water, 12 Years a Slave, among others. Mm-hmm. And they said only 5 Fox films a year, so I don't know if that means if the Searchlight unit is in that only 5 years, because they do, I think, 5 movies a year in general, so that may be cutting that back, or the general Fox studio. And since Disney operates as a blockbuster only mentality, I mean, are we gonna get movies like Jojo Rabbit again, which was, a
riot to watch? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know where the future is, because it seems like Hollywood is kind of on pause right now.
Yeah, but reason. I mean, generally, we don't know where that's going to go. It may not be good overall, but I think the overall point of bringing that up was people didn't care. Those questions weren't being asked, and that conversation wasn't being brought up at the forefront of when this was in the news. It was, yay! Fantastic Four is going to come to the MCU. Watch the ultimate irony if Peyton Reed gets his hands on the Fantastic Four and it bombs again. Just wait and watch. I've been hearing for years Peyton Reed really wants to do the Fantastic Four. So that's going to be bad.
But here's the thing, I've been rooting for the Fantastic Four to be in the MCU since the MCU started to become a thing.
And look, to be clear, this is where it gets a little frustrating having to be extra clear. I get you in that. We're not saying it's not okay to be excited about the Fantastic Four being in the MCU. What you're saying is also be mindful of the fact that these people...
of the cost.
Yeah, these people's livelihoods are being ruined. That's the cost of these things. Just be aware of it.
How much did it cost? Everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just you have these different, factors, and also I don't want Fantastic Four to fail either. I mean, Peyton Reed? Give me a fucking break.
He's so fucking overrated. I don't understand why it is that everyone likes him so much. Like, they even gave him a Mandalorian episode to direct, which only tells you, because, that's a stepping stone. They want to promote him. He's going to do other big projects with them, so it's not like he's doing Ant-Man 3, the next movie he's directing, which...
yawn.
Yeah.
He's so boring. He shoots everything boringly, and he's a fucking bore. But the thing, I don't throw somebody unique in there. There's so many different options. Say what you will about Wrinkle in Time, Ava DuVernay, give her a Marvel movie. There are so many different options. Why are you going with Peyton Reed?
It could be one of those things where like he's been lobbying it for a long, long time, and he has the Ant-Man movies, which, I mean, if we're being honest, they're some of the lowest grossing Marvel movies in the entire canon. But I don't know, man.
No.
Yeah, no. Just
I
no.
don't. I'm not. I don't want to see the X-Men in anything anytime soon.
We're not. We're not, because this pandemic pushed. I mean, I before the pandemic, I thought we were at least 5 years away. With this pandemic, we're 7 years away from anything X-Men.
Yeah.
Unless they're doing a Disney Plus, they're going to utilize Disney Plus as a way to. There's two ways you could do Disney Plus. You could wait 7 years, 7 years to do their official like premiere movie, and I could see them doing this. And this may, although there were some, is it possible they use the multiverse to just introduce the X-Men?
They could,
because there's the Multiverse of Madness movie coming up. Yeah.
Honestly, like with this whole, like they introduced the concept of it in Far From Home.
Right.
Who's to say they won't use it anywhere else in there? I mean, we've seen Stranger Things in the MCU before. I mean, remember when they were doing all those jumps in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Yeah.
When it comes to doing jumps like that, that isn't just like going from different places in the same world. You know, you're going through different dimensions to try and pinpoint a certain location. So there is that. I don't know. You could easily, throw in, James McAvoy and all that stuff into the MCU and thrust them in with the multiverse. I mean, this is where the thing is that will they go for it though? I don't.
But the other question is there even any desire to, like, Dark Phoenix? After you have like
it bombed.
Well, Apocalypse was a disappointment. New Mutants bombed. I'm sorry. Dark Phoenix bombed, and then also New Mutants, which came out this year, finally bombed as well. No one saw it. So why would you want to even bother? I think they may do like they may do something in the Multiverse of Madness where they give it a shout out, but like I don't see why you would bring that world into the MCU, since there's no value in it anymore. The films were so bad, the last couple of ones, no one cares about them.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I stopped giving a shit about anything X-Men related after Logan.
Rightfully so, and I think that was a good call.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is my X-Men finale. I loved it. Mm-hmm. It was honestly like good shit. And honestly, like, things need to know when to end.
You're right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't see like anything ending in terms of like the X-Men or anything like that. If they didn't leave different plot points so open-ended in Endgame, I would have just ended everything Marvel right there. But no, I want to find out what happens with the Guardians. Mm-hmm. I genuinely do. Huh?
And Thor.
With Thor, yeah. I wanted to see what happens with Thor, because Thor Love and Thunder.
Did you catch Chris Hemsworth's recent comments about him saying that he hopes that Thor Love and Thunder isn't the last one? And that gets me thinking, are we looking at a full-blown Taika Waititi Thor trilogy here? With another one coming after that?
That would be amazing. Wow. Because I loved what he did with Ragnarok.
To me, that, like, it's weird because it's like the third movie in the Thor series, but it really was a reboot.
Yeah.
It was.
And also, it's one of the best MCU films, period.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Also, that poster fucked me up. That was good shit. But the thing is that like creative heads like that, like Taika Waititi or James Gunn, are pretty much going to be the saving graces of the MCU going forward. Because again, you're going, Peyton Reed, what the fuck? But like, okay, but like, there's different opportunities. We were talking about this earlier today. Like, there's so many different things that you could do, and that Disney has been failing to do. And that is fully utilizing your properties to the fullest potential that it has. You know, you could have that miniseries, a 6-part miniseries of Spider-Man, you know, Tom Holland in high school. You could easily have that on Disney Plus. And guess what, guys? It'd be a hit. It'd be a huge hit. Tom Holland, man, that boy is sizzling on the freaking comal.
Wow.
He like, because he's freaking bankable as hell right now. He's a hot item right now in Hollywood. Everybody wants him in their projects. So Tom Holland, Zendaya, she fresh off of Emmy. Are you freaking kidding me? You're gonna, you know, waste that potential. I mean, there's so many different things you could do creatively, and it will be, you know, make your bank. A lot of people would pay, you know, you get more subscribers onto Disney Plus just from announcing that you're going to have a Tom Holland Spider-Man show on there. Imagine, like, everybody's crazy and nuts about Tom Holland as Spider-Man. So a lot of people view him as the definitive Spider-Man. Why not have that? You know, it's frustrating to say the least.
No, it very much is so. You and I were having a conversation earlier in the day about this, about the number of missed opportunities that, you know, they could have used. Like, look, Disney Plus in large, to a large respect, the brand of Disney Plus is, this is what we're able to do that most studios and streaming services can't give you, in which we can tie directly in. Our shows, our programs can tie directly in to our big blockbuster franchises like Star Wars and Marvel. And we're going to give you the kind of fix that no one else can. I said one example that I thought of that would have been very interesting is in the same year in which Endgame would have been released, you could have done a series of short films talking about the characters that were left alive in the 5-year time gap of the snap. I said that we could see Okoye take over Wakanda since, you know, Shuri and T'Challa were both snapped away. We could see an adventure with Nebula and Rocket. You know, we could see one where Cap, even after Endgame, we can see Cap go back and deliver back all of the Infinity Stones and come across the Red Skull. There's so many fun activities that could have activities.
You sound like a camp director.
I know.
We'll have so many fun, activities. We're gonna have arts and crafts at 7. I hope you're ready.
The point is, if this is what you want your streamer to be known for, then do it. And you knew that you were doing this years in advance. I believe it was 2017 when not only was, I believe, the concept of Disney Plus announced, but then also the year that they were seeking out 20th Century Fox. There have been rumors that they're going to be adding the 20th Century Fox tab on the Disney Plus home console when there isn't one already. And that there may be they might be ready to give in a little when it comes to being so protective with the brand, as they say. One of their biggest losses was Love, Victor, which was so successful on Hulu. It was renewed for season 2. It was made with the intention of it being on Disney Plus, and then when they reviewed it, they were like, "No, it's too gay. I'm sorry. We fuck off." First and foremost, really. I mean, that is so offensive.
That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah,
the whole
but
queer baiting and all that stuff that Disney does.
The main idea is there's so many wonderful ideas for shows that they could be having on right now, and this was spurred on by one of their better ones. Today we were discussing that in the past week it was announced that Nick Fury is involved in a show in an upcoming MCU Disney Plus series.
Yeah, with Samuel L. Jackson involved as well. I mean, there's that's a good idea, a really good idea. WandaVision is a really good idea. The trailers look great, but like in terms of execution, we'll see how it goes. We've been duped before. The announced, there's going to be Moon Knight, She-Hulk. It was announced that Tatiana Maslany.
Oh, the rumor that I sent over that they were looking at Keanu Reeves for Moon Knight.
Moon Knight, which is also really freaking good. That's also a huge get. If you get Keanu Reeves involved, I think that'd be extraordinary.
You said Tatiana Maslany that they confirmed for She-Hulk, and then also, I think they got Haley Steinfeld to be Kate Bishop on the Hawkeye series. At least that was the rumor.
Which I've seen Bumblebee, I've seen True Grit, I've seen
Edge of 17.
Edge of 17. I've seen what's that? What's the other one? What's the other one with her?
She has a song out called Starving. So there's that.
Yeah. I'm starving and I tasted you.
Yeah.
I like that. Ender's Game. She was good in Ender's Game as well. I mean, she's such a good actress. I think she's more than capable of pulling it off.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah. I don't know. Again, like if Disney wasn't so freaking creatively bankrupt, I think that like these things, like honestly, we should be hired.
Well, it's like you look at the things that have been announced and you wonder, like, dude, what era are you from? Like, there are currently, and these are not ideas that have been like rumored, these have been confirmed and are in various stages of development. There are remakes going on of Turner and Hooch, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Three Men and a Baby. Who the fuck cares? Who is your audience? Also, you just know they're gonna be shit. I mean, that just sounds like a shitty thing.
Who's gonna be nostalgic over those properties? Let's be real.
Who cares? No one fucking cares.
Turner, no, yeah.
It was a big mistake. Lizzie McGuire should be out by now, which last I heard was back on a promising note.
Okay.
Hillary Duff said she did a post a couple months back saying that the pause button has been unpaused and that development was moving forward again now that both she and Disney made concessions that she considered to be fair. So the last update was that Lizzie McGuire thankfully was moving forward.
Is it still going to be on Disney Plus? Who knows? Okay. All right. Oh, God damn it. You see? We need these old fucks out of the way. Let Rise be.
The Rise of Skywalker. No. No. I don't know where that came from. That was bad. That was bad.
Like animated programs. You could do post Rise of Skywalker shit. Well, I mean, Daisy Ridley training Finn and all that's, you could do that. Have the ghosts of Luke be involved. Have Ben Solo, Adam Driver, have him lend his voice as Ben Solo. So, if you're able to rise freaking Emperor Palpatine back from the dead, why not rise freaking Ben Solo back from the dead? I mean, and just insert somehow Ben Solo survived.
That would be funny if that happened. Yeah, that's also one of the things is we know that Mandalorian Season 2 is going to be used as a launching pad for other projects, live action and animated Star Wars projects that are in various stages of development over at Disney Plus. Which when you step back and examine, a lot of them are all kind of the same variety
thing in the same vein.
The same vein.
What accent was that? Holy shit!
I don't know.
Same vine. Oh, so it's like Australia. Blimey, mate.
And yet, for all of the criticism, not only do they have 60, last I checked, 60 million subscribers, but they just won 7 Emmy Awards for The Mandalorian. I think another one for Forky Asks a Question. And I was like, what the fuck? And they had some big successes this year, even though Mulan flopped. I'm sure there was a little bit of a surge. They might spin the numbers. Keep an eye out for this in the next quarterly meeting. They might spin the Mulan failure by saying, hey, but at least we got some more Disney Plus subscribers, so there was a win there. Hamilton helped them out with that earlier this year. That was a success.
God, Hamilton boomed. Like, holy shit. Like, there was a month of solid just people talking about Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think that, like, staying in the pop culture eye for a month is a freaking miracle, I think.
Yeah, especially for there are people like me who've never seen Hamilton and were never a part of the vibe and the pop culture thing when it came out years ago.
The rich 1% who actually got to see this. Or those who were lucky enough to get the lottery seats.
Yeah.
You know, but like, again, like, also other things that you could do on Disney Plus, release your filmed Broadway productions on there, release The Lion King, release Aladdin, release Frozen. You know, you have those Broadway fucking Mary Poppins. There's a Broadway production of Mary Poppins. Release that as well. Release Beauty and the Beast. You're sitting on a treasure, you're sitting on a treasure trove of all these different things, and you're just letting it go by the way of Ilha de Mirta being taken in by the sea and all. With the hurricane. Aye. And I don't think Bob Chapek is serving her, our best interest as captain. Enough Dead Man's Chest metaphors here. It is, by the way, such a good movie. I still adore Dead Man's Chest 100%. It might be moving up my ranks of my favorite Pirates movie. Because, like, there's so many things with it that I think is really good and I think exceeds the first one, I feel. But anyway, there's so many different things that you could do with Disney Plus that is just, like, wasted. It's sitting there. You have it. Just, it's like Shia LaBeouf, just
do it.
Just do it. Even Stevens, you could have something with that. I mean, nostalgia is such a huge drug. Disney needs to know how to use it in a great way like that. I mean, you're sitting on it. You're just sitting in it. Why buy all this shit up if you're not gonna exploit it in its full potential? Yeah. Yeah. I have nothing else to say. I just wanted to check on you and just talk a little bit. How about you, Alexis?
If I have anything else to say? No, I think we pretty much covered it. It's been an interesting year, that's for sure. But yeah, I guess if you want to close out the show, you could talk about what exciting programming you have coming up for Fantasy Fair for the remainder of the year. We're in the final stretch. We're about to hit the final stretch of 2020, if you can believe that.
Yeah. It's felt like a long year, but it's gone by fast.
Yeah.
Which is probably the condition of this year and the way it's been. For October, we're discussing different things. First of all, we're gonna do the Once Upon a Retrospect on Tower of Terror and Haunted Mansion, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And especially the Haunted Mansion, because I think I love that movie more than most. A lot of people hate that movie. I absolutely adore it. What else? We're gonna do some things in November. November hasn't been. We're definitely gonna do the much talked about Waking Sleeping Beauty review and do all that shit. December, there's different decoms that we're gonna do for Once Upon a Retrospect and all that, and also we're gonna have the sporadic news episodes going in forward. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this year. There's nothing concrete in stone except for that for Halloween and October's concerned. And Red Spot Entertainment, we're going to be doing or at least they're going to be doing after the core series, they're going to be going a little bit spooky and doing The Haunting of Hill House and talking about that show along with the Haunting of Bly House.
Bly Manor.
That was called Bly Manor. They're going to be discussing that along with an audio commentary of The Shining and Doctor Sleep. So that's going to happen. Also, Alexis on To the Table, there's going to be some different things in October with Poltergeist, The Sixth Sense, and hopefully Peter and I will be doing Trick or Treat, which I've been interested in seeing for a hot minute, and so we're gonna be doing that and more. There's a lot of content to go around here on.
We've done a lot already this year. I think it's honestly surprised me. I feel like similarly to you in your mainstay occupation, where you're finding yourself busier than in normal times, the output of podcasts across the board, or in particular with Red Spotlight, and also when you combine Red Spotlight and Fantasy Fair, the rate of podcasts that has come out has been surprising, considering this is a year with no movies. Just no movies at all. And the crazy amount of content. We're putting out more content than we ever had before. That's crazy.
Crazy for feeling so lonely.
What is that?
You never heard of Crazy by Patsy Cline?
Yes, but I haven't heard the song in a long time.
Oh God, it's so good. Like, I honestly, my mind is just a working jukebox.
Yeah. I think people have caught on at this point.
So yeah. So, did you like what you heard here? And if you did, you can check us out everywhere you listen to podcasts. You can check out everything that's going on in the Red Spotlight Entertainment, all on the same site, castbox.fm, the home of the Red Spotlight Entertainment Network. That includes the Fantasy Fair, Red Spotlight Entertainment, Bon and Beyond with Kyle Lira, and the table. All that on castbox.fm, and also you can find us everywhere on TuneIn. You can also find us on, I'm working on getting us onto, I think it's going to be YouTube podcasts. I'm not sure.
They have that?
Because Google is like changing their whole thing, and like Google Music isn't going to be a thing anymore.
Uh-huh. I heard about that. So YouTube podcast is a new thing?
I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure because I have YouTube Music.
Right.
And I would imagine that would be where the podcast division is going as well. I'm just assuming. Don't quote me on that.
Well, there's also YouTube.
Yeah.
A lot of the recent library is on YouTube right now.
Yeah, you could find the podcast there too. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, and Stitcher. Yeah.
And you can find it, I mean, if it's even more helpful, the normal days to look out for podcasts. Fantasy Faire is usually out mostly on Fridays and sometimes on Mondays. And then with Red Spotlight every Sunday, sometimes Thursdays.
Yeah. So, to the table on Wednesdays.
Not anymore.
When did you change that?
I don't know. Because I don't know. What is it still supposed to be Wednesday?
It's supposed to be Wednesday.
Oh. I usually just put it up on Friday. But that was the last one that we did with Tron, but it can go back to Wednesday.
Just to keep it sporadic throughout the week.
Yeah.
Space it out. So yeah. Without further ado, I'm Kyle Lira, and as always, stay magical, everyone.